The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast coming to you March 14th, 2023, also known as Pi Day. 314, yeah, Pi Day, you get it? Anyway, how you guys doing? Oh my god, spit up my microphone. What the hell? Woo! Sorry about that. How you guys doing? Just here hanging out. A lot of things about today. Of course, you guys, I'm sure you don't know what's going on in my health as of late. Things are good. I've been continuing to, like I said on the last episode, I announced that I am type 2 diabetic. I'm continuing to exercise, walk, continue to eating healthy and sticking to that. I mean, I had a couple of slip-ups here and there, nothing huge, but I always get back on the horse immediately. And in fact, the fact I'm actually conscious about it too, especially, is a good thing too, especially. I think, what was it, Friday, I didn't have anything to eat. I had to go to the chiropractor. My wife and I, we didn't make anything to eat that night before because our son had to go to the ER last Thursday. He's been out of school over a week now. Hopefully he's back tomorrow. We'll see. So I went to the chiropractor early Friday morning and have time to make anything for lunch and all that. We had to get groceries and having time. I had to go to work. So I ended up going to Chick-fil-A for lunch. Wasn't bad. I mean, I got a chicken sandwich, some fries, and lemonade. But of course, when I did that, my wife totally freaked out. But again, immediately when I got home, I went back home, stuck my water, ate healthy. So like I said, this is not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be a perfect journey here. You'll have moments where I will have a cookie here or there. Or I will have a meal that's not really good for you. But the point is to stick, as long as you don't fall off the wagon and you stay on the horse. And I'm trying to stay on the horse as much as I can. And I'm trying to turn things around too, especially because as I said on the last episode, one of my biggest goals is to get off the meds. I'm currently on 2 different medications now. I'm on medication for diabetes, which is metformin. I'm on medication for high blood pressure. And I'm also on medication for high cholesterol right now. The goal is to get the high cholesterol immediately, pretty much soon. Also, I'm hoping within a year to get the metformin from the diabetes. The high blood pressure might be a little tougher for me because it is genetic in my family. Both my parents have it, high blood pressure, so it is a little genetic. But I've noticed, though, my blood sugar has continued to drop on average since I've been testing myself. I mean, I hate pricking myself with my needles, but I've noticed that even when it has a little bit of a jump, for the most part, it's been the averages are lower down. The goal is to get it between 50 and 100. I had my lowest number this morning. I had 137, I believe, this morning. So I'm getting closer to my goal of 100, and hopefully with that will be the signs that this thing's reversing. But again, dieting is important. And I don't mean just dieting for the sake of just losing weight. Because, look, I've lost 4 pounds already. I've lost 4 pounds. I weighed myself yesterday morning. And, it's one of those things where that's cool and all. I'm happy. But to be honest with you, the weight loss part of this is actually the last thing I'm worried about. Because I know the weight loss will come with all this. With the eating healthy and all that, and exercising and stuff, that will come. I am more concerned. I am more focused on being healthy, reversing this diabetes, getting rid of this thing, so I can get off these medications. I hate medications as it is, and not only that, making this a healthy transition for this next phase of my life. Because not just eating healthy is important. Also, making sure you're in the right frame of mind. Mental health is important too. Stress. And, living in this world in 2023 with, I have a marriage to uphold. I have kids I'm raising, and those things are they do test my, the very fabric of my being. So those things can also rise your blood levels too, your pressure levels. So it's very important that I continue to live a life where it's, in my opinion, it's easy in terms of stress-free, healthy, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I'm working on that. I really am. So that's the update there. Things are good to understand, like I said. I'm walking a lot. I try to. It's been a little rough last week or so because my son's been sick, and with the schedules my wife and I are on, we work fairly opposite schedules for the most part. I have had to be home for the most part. So, but what I was doing before, I was actually walking twice a day. I was walking a mile and a half a day, a session. I was walking twice a day, a mile and a half each in the morning, a mile and a half in the evening. It's been rough to do both at the same time, the same day, for the last week or so because my son's been sick. Hopefully tomorrow I can get back to doing that. I'm trying to get cocky now. I'm trying to do 2 miles a session, so I'm trying to raise this to 4 miles, over 4 miles a day. Like I said, this is a lifestyle, and I'm actually really shocked. Shocked is the word, really. How easy, for the most part, this transition has been for me. And again, it's one of those things where I think mentally, when you're in your 30s or in your 20s and you're told to lose weight, you don't really think about, you don't really think about it like as a priority because you figure, you got all the time in the world, you can change it when you want to, you're young enough and all that. But when you're 42 years old, I'm turning 43 in less than 2 months. You have kids to raise. You have young kids, in fact. A wife that cares about you, that relies on you. And then you're told by your son, over here in a conversation, my oldest son and I were talking a couple weeks ago in the car as we were driving home from the babysitter's house. And I was telling him about what was going on with me at the time. And my 5-year-old in the backseat of the car jumps in and says, Daddy, I don't want you to die. Those are the words that ring in my head every time. Whenever I feel like I'm falling not off the cliff, but every time I feel like I'm about to slip a little bit and lose focus a little bit. Because look, like I said, the transition has been fairly easy, but at the same time, there's still, bumps. Okay, there's still bumps. But that voice of my 5-year-old Logan in my ear telling me, Daddy, I don't want you to die. That is what was motivating me more than anything else. That voice. And then my soon-to-be 10-year-old, 9-year-old Eli, who's been, with me. When I go walking with every day, he goes skating with. He'll go on his roller skates and he'll skate with me around the entire lake with me. And he'll do all 5 laps per session. He'll do all of it. It's also mentally, for me, the walking's been great too. To the point now, I'm actually interested in making this a thing now where maybe I'd start doing marathons in the future. Honestly, the walking thing's been good because, for me, it's actually another step for me to get away from the chaos. All I do is I throw on some headphones, put on some podcasts, maybe some music sometimes, but definitely some podcasts, and just walk for 30, 45 minutes a time. It's actually quite freeing and quite it's actually quite the adjustment, and it's been a lot easier. Like I said, there have been days when my back feels tight, and then when I start walking anyway, that tightness loosens up. It's my body adjusting to this. So today I didn't get to walk, unfortunately, because I woke up a little late today because and then my oldest son stayed home from school today too. Taught my youngest son, and we were gonna walk this evening, but the kids were kind of out of it a little bit. So we'll reset tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm gonna try to go to bed right after I finish this podcast. Try to go to bed immediately after, and then try to go early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, to go walking. That's my goal, to wake up half an hour earlier than usual, and to walk every day. And just try to get the steps in, the laps in. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's a new hobby for me now. Another thing also has been helping as well too with this whole thing is intermittent fasting. As you guys know, I've discussed this show many times over. Intermittent fasting has been a thing with me for a couple of years on this podcast. I've discussed that podcast for a couple of years now, and but as I told you guys before, the thing that's different now in comparison to before all this came about is that in the hours I was eating, I was not eating clean. I was eating whatever I wanted. So I had the wrong idea about intermittent fasting. So now I'm actually eating cleaner, than ever. I had my wife made these zucchini zoodles they call that, which is zucchini like in strips, like a noodles. So in place of pasta, obviously, but chicken. She made it to make her own, what you call her own version of chicken Alfredo, which is really good. We've been adjusting, obviously eating fish and veggies and protein and other things around that. It's like I said, the adjustment. The more I dive into this stuff, the more, because I've been obsessed the last couple weeks. The more you dive into this stuff, the more you do the research. It's actually easier than you realize. It really is. You just got to put the work in. And I've been doing that. Like I said, not easy. Some moments are like, oh, I want a sweet. But again, no one's perfect. But at the same time, you have to know what you're fighting for. In my case, I'm fighting for my family. I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for the ability to, when I get older, I can still function at a relatively great rate to be able to do the things I want to do in my 50s and 60s and 70s. I don't want health problems when I get older. I don't. I just don't. I don't want that. And I think that's the thing that's really motivating me more than anything else, is that I don't want to live that life in my 70s depending on medication to live. I don't want that. I'll be able to walk. And like I said, just having a walking now, I'll be able to be able to walk and do all these things I enjoy doing now. In 20 years from now, in 30 years from now, 40 years from now, even higher, who knows? So that's my motivation, my family, and everything else around that. So, but intermittent fasting has been helpful, because intermittent fasting is also recommended by people, especially recommended by specialists and doctors and all that say that it does help reverse diabetes too, because the fasting part of it, exactly, when you allow the body to heal, it's eating up the natural fats, natural sugars in your body, and depending on what you put in your body, if you're eating healthy, and naturally it'll find other ways for fuel, which then helps helps to rise the insulin, and it eats a natural sugar, burns natural sugars and all that, and that in turn reverses diabetes. So that's what I'm doing now. That's what I've been leaning on, and I'm trusting God to have His hand on this, and hopefully things will be on the up and up, and things are on the up and up right now. Like I said, lost 4 pounds already. I'm feeling decent, and also hopefully to get back into a regular schedule. My neck also is still on the up and up. I still have a little bit of numbness in my fingers, but for the most part, my index finger on my left hand. But I'm back to work. Things are okay there. A little bit of soreness here and there when I'm working, but nowhere close to where I was a couple weeks ago. I'm on a regiment now, so hopefully I can get back to regular podcasting time. The only last hurdle I have left here is because of my schedule. You guys know I record a wrestling podcast, Take Through Wrestling, that I haven't been on the show in about a month now. I know I appeared for like 30 minutes on one episode, I think, a couple weeks ago, but other than that, I've been gone for about a month and a half, how long it's been. And the reason why I've been gone for as long is because, number one, we record that show so late at night on Thursday nights into Friday, early Friday morning, that, and it's tough for me now because every Friday I go to the chiropractor. I go early in the morning, like 8-9 o'clock in the morning. But I also got early in the morning also to go take my kids to school, and I have to go to work on top of that also too. One of the things that the doctor's been saying is that you need to be sleeping 6-7 hours, at least 7 hours a night, 7 hours minimum a night, no matter what night, all 7 days a week. The problem is that doing that podcast, we get that recorded by 1 o'clock in the morning. That leaves me 4 to 5 hours to sleep, and that's not good for my health. So once we get to the point where my chiropractor, I can move my appointments off that Friday if I could. Once I'm back to full health, I'll be back to that show full time again. So thanks to the guys for holding it down while I've been gone. Jim and Mike and Joe for doing a great job there. But I do miss being on the show. But like I said, health's first, because I can't do all of this without my health being in order anyway. All right, so let's get started. March Madness is here, March Madness snuck up on me. It wasn't until late last week that I realized that this is March and we're getting close to tournament time. Because I saw the conference championships that was going on this weekend and stuff, and it really stuck on me. And I say that because growing up as a kid, I really did enjoy college basketball. I mean, I used to love college basketball, especially in the 90s. Early 90s, mid 90s. I remember those early Duke teams with Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill and Christian Laettner. I used to hate that Duke team. I still do to this day. I hate Duke. And all those, UNLV and, UConn and all that stuff. And naturally, as I got older, I still always watched college basketball, but they got to a point where it kind of went back into the rearview mirror some degree. This year is officially probably the first year ever I did not watch a lick of college basketball. And a lot of it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't like it. I do like college basketball. I really do. But the problem is it's bandwidth. I don't have time for it. I really don't. And like I said, I'm NBA diehard. So if I'm going to watch an NBA basketball game on a Tuesday night, I'm going to watch a college basketball game. I'm going to watch NBA. I'm also doing podcasts and watching wrestling and all those other things I'm into. So it's not that I don't like college basketball. I do. But when you have all the responsibilities I do have, it gets harder to watch everything. You can't just fit it all in 24 hours. You still got to sleep. You still got to do other things. You still have other interests. And, in my case, in addition to working and doing other things, I also like to put out content and listen to content also on top of that too. So college basketball has been one of the things that's kind of suffered for me. And this year was the first year I didn't watch any games. So when I see the four number one seeds, it's Purdue, it's Kansas, it's Houston, and it's Alabama. Obviously, Kansas historically has always been the number one team every year, every other year in the bracket. But seeing those other three teams, Purdue, Alabama, and whoever the other team was, Alabama, Purdue, and Houston was, like, that tells you this is a wide open year. At least on paper, it feels like a wide open year. And all the pundits are saying it's a wide open year. I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite who's going to win. I don't know. I have no idea. I just know Florida State got in. I'm happy Florida State got into the thing, obviously. Rooting for them, obviously, win the whole thing. But, I haven't done a bracket in a couple of years. I'm probably not going to do a bracket this year as well either because I don't know what I'm looking at. I really don't know. But, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch the product. I will say, and I'll give credit to my old pal here on the podcast, our old friend Matthew McQueenie of the Mixed Matters podcast. He did an episode. I think this did like yesterday with his buddy Matt O'Daniels, and they were actually breaking down the entire bracket. And listening to that podcast this morning over breakfast actually got me excited about the tournament actually. So I'm kind of psyched up. I think the first four starts tonight. Obviously not watching right now because I'm recording this, but I'll check it out a little bit once I'm done recording. But, like I said, it's one of those things where, it's not that I don't want to watch it, it's bandwidth. And even wrestling suffered in the last couple months now. I haven't watched AEW in how long now? I'm barely I don't watch any weekly wrestling anymore. I follow on YouTube and then I'll watch the pay-per-views and all that. It's bandwidth. It's just, a lot of things going on. I do. All right, speaking of basketball, NBA playoffs is a month away. By the way, if you guys don't know, I'll say it again. I do have my own NBA and basketball podcast. It's not on this feed though. It's on the Huddle Up podcast feed. Huddle Up Incorporated, we call that. You guys know about Huddle Up podcast. I appear on that podcast throughout the football season every Tuesday. Big Jim, of course, is the head of that. We've added some extra shows of content of shows on the feed in addition to that weekly show. A basketball show which I host now called And One. So I release that episodes there every Tuesday/Wednesday whenever I have a chance to get it out. So you want to check out that episode there. But I did talk about this on the show, but I'll talk about it here as well too. The NBA playoff picture. We're a month away from the playoffs, man, and I tell you, things are getting very interesting in the NBA. That's all I'll do. I'll break down the entire East to West thing here and give my opinions on where teams are going. In the East, first off, the number one seed currently, Milwaukee Bucks are starting to pull away in the East. 2.5 games up on the Celtics. And what makes the Bucks very interesting here too, especially, is that they haven't been healthy most of the year. Giannis has missed time, and then when Giannis is back, Chris Middleton's only not getting back in the fold, and yet they're at the spot now. I think Milwaukee right now, there's no, in my opinion, no clear-cut favorite in the NBA. But if I had to give a team a little bit of an edge of being the favorite to win it all this year, it'd be the Bucks, honestly. Celtics are number 2 in the East. They're sudden step a little bit. They've been struggling the last couple of weeks. Obviously they're still a contender. I think they'll be okay overall. So I watched that game last against Houston. Lost to Houston in Houston. It's shocking. The Sixers in 3 spot. They're a game behind. Boston, and I think Joel Embiid, if they can get that 2 spot in the East, I think Joel Embiid might have a serious case for MVP this year. In fact, right now, if I had to vote right now, Joel Embiid will have my vote by a smidge. Cavs in the 4 spot, of course. That should be a lock there. The Nets in the 5 spot. The Nets. Remember when they traded Kyrie and Kevin Durant, lots of folks thought that they're going to fall apart, and they've somewhat held their own without Kyrie and without Durant, and even with Ben Simmons, being away from the team now, they've held their own. I mean, obviously those wins they have early in the year baked in help, but the pieces they got back in that trade with both Durant and Kyrie, it's worked out pretty decent actually. Big win against Denver on Sunday. I watched that game. Big win for them there. The Knicks at 6. They've they lost a few games here until recently, and they beat the Lakers on Sunday. They're in the 6th spot right now. One of the biggest stories of the season here. Obviously, my team, the 7th, the Miami Heat, number 7. It looks like they're 3 back right now, both the Nets and the Knicks. I don't know what's going on with the Heat, honestly. They're up and down. Like you would think they would probably get at least to the 6th spot because at some point, but they need a combination of the Nets or the Knicks to fall apart in addition to the Heat winning games to end this year. And I don't know, the inconsistency in this team, even into mid-March, is very, very scary, honestly. So they may be a play-in team at this point. We'll see how that goes. Hawks at 8, Raptors 9, Bulls 10. No surprises there, honestly. Wizards 11, Pacers 12, Magic 13. Magic a fun team to watch, honestly. Look up for them in the years to come. Next year, actually. Hornets at 14 and Detroit 15, of course. Worst team in the league, record in the league, in my opinion. But not in my opinion, as worst record in the league, actually. Now in the West, the Nuggets, they lost 3 straight games. They are the one still in the West. Memphis, despite not having Ja Morant, who's away from the team indefinitely, have won 3 in a row, 6 last 10. They're holding serve there as a 2 seed. The Kings, the surprise of the year, the 3 seed currently in the West. The Suns are the 4 seed without Kevin Durant, lost 2 in a row since Durant's injury. The Warriors, who had a weird year, but they're holding serve at 5 in the West. They could possibly catch the 4 seed with the Suns. They beat them last night on ESPN. The only game they have back there. Also tied for the 5 seed, the Clippers at 6. Also, who won 3 in a row. They're another weird team. They've been up and down. Even with having Russell Westbrook on the team, they're a little up and down. Then the play-in situation is interesting. 7 through 10. You got the T-Wolves at 7, Mavericks slumping at 8. The Lakers at 9, who are starting to surge, and the Pelicans at 10. I think the Mavericks and the Lakers swap places there, honestly. The Mavericks have been, since that Kyrie trade, have been really bad. And not only that, Kyrie and Doncic have missed time. OKC tied for that 10th spot at 11. Utah not far back, a half game behind for the 12th seed. Then you got Portland at 13, and of course we're way down the list. Spurs and Rockets close it out there. It's gonna be a fascinating last month of the year. It's really is gonna be fascinating for that last month of the year. It should be fun. I think there's no clear-cut favorites. There's tiers. I think this is gonna be one of the most fascinating playoff runs we've seen in a long time. Lots of narratives and all that to behold, and there's that. So, we'll check in with this on the podcast in the weeks to come. Hopefully, we'll be able to get in a playoff preview next month as well too, with the boys Zach and Chris when that happens. All right, NFL free agency kicks off tomorrow officially, but we already have some deals in principle. Obviously, the big story, Aaron Rodgers, away for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision. It looks like it's going to the Jets. They signed a couple players that he's played with in Green Bay, like Aaron Lazard, to a 4-year deal today. Of course, Rodgers supposedly is going to be on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow at 1 p.m. We're assuming that will be where he makes a formal announcement about him going to the Jets or retiring or staying in Green Bay. All that at this point, all the signs about him going back to Green Bay, I think it's there's a bigger chance he retires than he goes back to Green Bay, honestly. All the signs that look like he's going to the Jets. But, again, not in stone yet, so we can't assume so. What else? We got Jimmy G going to Vegas on a 3-year deal. That's interesting move. Don't know if it makes him any better. I wouldn't say he's better than Derek Carr, but I would say at the very least he has history with Josh McDaniels. My Giants traded for actually Waller, the tight end Waller, who's when healthy, a top 5 tight end in the league. That's a big move for the Giants. So there's no excuse for Daniel Jones to get the job done. No excuse there. A lot of big moves here. Like I said, in free agency, we'll see. So, obviously, the Aaron Rodgers thing is the biggest thing of the offseason right now. Lamar Jackson, will he sign his franchise tender? We'll see how that runs out. What else? The Dolphins are starting to pad up now, starting to form up their roster now. They trade for Jalen Ramsey on Sunday, a guy who I think has lost his best days behind him, but at the same time, he's still pretty good, and he's playing opposite Xavier Howard, so they have one of the best 1-2 tandems in the league in terms of corners. Who else? I'm trying to think of who the big moves that I missed on. And I know Andy Dalton went to somewhere, to the Falcons, I think it was. I'm trying to think of one of the other moves I saw here on the list here of teams that did anything big. James Winston resigns with New Orleans as a backup. Obviously, backing up Kevin. Not Kevin. I was gonna say Kevin Durant. What am I talking about? Not Kevin Durant. Derek Carr. Let me see what else here. Bradbury resigns with the Eagles. That's a big move for them. I think that's all. That's such a big move. That's about it for the time being. Yeah, I think that's it for the time being. Obviously tomorrow, officially, free agency kicks off officially, so we'll see any other big moves happen there. Baseball around the corner. Excited for it. Haven't watched any spring training, honestly, because right now, between March Madness now starting and basketball, and it's, it is dog days. It is getting rampant right now. But I am excited for baseball season. I was hoping to go to the Mets. The Mets will be down here opening the season against the Marlins down here, but I probably won't make it. Hopefully get to a game this year, though. We'll see how that goes. I would love to go to a game this year. That'd be awesome. I've actually seen the Mets quite a few times opening day down here. Most notably my bachelor party the day 2 days from my wedding. Went to the Marlins Mets game in 2011. That was fun. Let me see what else. Besides that, the Undertaker released his Mount Rushmore, pro wrestling Mount Rushmore. No surprises there, actually. These guys. He had Hulk Hogan. He had who else had there? He had Hulk Hogan. He had Stone Cold Steve Austin. He had Ric Flair, and then he had Andre the Giant actually as his fourth selection. Very interesting there. Andre Giant is kind of comparable to Undertaker in the sense that, to me, he was an attraction. Like when I do my Mount Rushmores, to me, it's guys, not necessarily the best characters, but guys that when you build your promotion and who's your main star, and did your company thrive when that star was your guy? Hogan is easy. Hogan and Austin 1 and 2 are easy because see what's wrong with Hulk Hogan. Now in hindsight and past tense and everything out the ring, of course, personal life and whatever. Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania is one of the biggest launching pad that put wrestling on the mainstream in a big way to where we even got the Attitude Era, which Stone Cold Steve Austin took that and ran with it. So in a lot of ways, Hulk Hogan would be like a Babe Ruth of wrestling, and then Stone Cold Steve Austin would be like the Michael Jordan of wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Ric Flair, it's funny. Ric Flair would even be in my top 30 WWF or WWE superstars all time, because most of his impact was done outside of there. Was done in WCW, NWA, and all that. But he was the anti-WWE guy before he was WWE in 1991. So he's the guy that kept WCW afloat, kept NWA afloat in those years, in those early years, before he went to WWE in 91 and beyond that. Andre Giant I respect too, because Andre Giant was the first real attraction. Andre, who I do love, obviously a legend. Would I put him on my Mount Rushmore? Probably not, but I can see the case for him on there. It doesn't bother me at all, honestly, that he's there. I think it's great. So I like Taker's list, actually. And people have different people. People have different names on the list, of course. Different names here. Hold on a second. I'm going to get a little drink in my sparkling water. Yeah, now people have different names on the list. Some may have John Cena in there. Some may have Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Some may have, I don't know, The Rock, Randy Savage. I've heard now people in today say that Roman Reigns should be in the conversation. We'll see. But I think this list of takers, Hogan, Austin, Flair, and Andre, it's a really good list. Because the three of the guys down there, Flair, Hogan, Austin, on my three as well too. Because Flair did so much wrestling outside WWE, of course, and kept it viable outside the WWE for all those years. You got to give respect for that. But I always go back and forth to the fourth spot because, you can say The Rock, but to me, The Rock was always the best number 2 guy. Like, even though Rock was huge, the Attitude Era was such an anomaly because even though The Rock was so big, Austin was the one that brought that in. The Rock came behind there, especially, and benefited off what Austin pretty much brought from the ground. And I'm not even knocking The Rock for that. I mean, The Rock will even tell you that Austin, to me, was number 1. He'll tell you that. He has the utmost respect for Steve Austin. I would dare say, honestly, you can think I'm crazy. I think John Cena has a better case for the Mount Rushmore than The Rock because John Cena kind of came in clean a little bit because John Cena came in where the business was starting to go down again in 2002 when The Rock and Austin were being, starting to were on the way down. When Austin retired in 2003, when The Rock became part-time, and then he went to the movies, and he was gone for a good while. The next guy up was Cena, because remember Brock Lesnar was the guy for 2 years, but he didn't want the mantle. John Cena was the next guy. John Cena was the next Hogan guy. So, in many ways, John Cena has a better case to being a Mount Rushmore guy than probably anybody else in my on this list, or on any list for that matter. If I had to put a fourth guy there, I might put John Cena. And I say that as someone who didn't watch the product when John Cena came around. I stopped in 2002, right before Cena debuted. So, but like I said, I like Taker's list. I thought it was a very good list. And, I respect it a lot. All right, last thing before we get out of here. This week is 3 years since the start of this pandemic. 3 years since COVID-19. 3 years since our world changed. A lot's happened in 3 years. A lot. And there's a lot of growing in 3 years. You've seen a lot of things. We're still divided as a country. It sucks. We haven't learned anything. I'll be honest with you. I lost faith after. If a pandemic couldn't unite this country and like this world, then what was going to do it? And it's a sad state of affairs we're at now, politically, culturally. I'll be honest with you, and this is on a personal level. Like, obviously, I'm thankful I'm healthy. I'm thankful we made it through the pandemic. I'm thankful that we didn't have any financial loss on my end, at least. We were able to go back to work in a relatively quicker fashion than many. But I'll be honest with you, the pandemic was something we needed. And I'm only speaking for my family only here. My wife, my 2 kids. We were on the go so much as a family with our schedule at that time, leading up to the pandemic. And I spoke about this before in the past, on older episodes. And when the pandemic happened, it was a kind of a slowdown period for us. Those 10 weeks were tough, but there also were 10 weeks where we were bonded. I remember my wife and I got closer. Our kids got closer. I remember our trips to going to the store, not to the store, we would do drives every day on the beach to get fresh air. Because remember at the time we weren't able to be out as much, because of the restrictions and stuff. So we would find ways to get out the house. We'd drive to, we'd do like dates to the McDonald's or whatever restaurants open to get food, and that was it. And we would go to the store and things of that nature, but we had to do it mobile. And it was one of those things where it did bond us. It did bond us a little bit those 10 weeks being locked down. And I won't lie, a part of me misses that. A part of me does miss that to some degree. Like, we learned a lot. We learned how to do without things. I learned to be without sports. to be without entertainment, and to just, be able to. It was the first time, and probably in a very long time, and maybe ever, that we started to appreciate family outside our bubble. In a way, we were making appointments just to have Zoom chats with my sister, my brother, my father, my mom. We would do Zoom chats together because we couldn't see each other. And it was the first time, I think, in like ages, that we felt bonded. Even friends of ours, like we were nearby, we would do like FaceTime and group chats and stuff. We felt bonded. It was so cool. Like the world stopped. We were all going through the same thing at the same time. And it felt like we were all holding hands. We couldn't touch each other. We couldn't be there for each other. We were holding hands. We were bonded for this thing, this pandemic, this COVID-19. And then we got back to normal again. Like, did we learn anything? I don't know. But I every year away from this thing, I start to think about, flashback to that time between March and early March of 2020 and late May 2020. And just looking back at all that's happened since then, I do miss it. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't miss people getting sick and people losing their jobs and the businesses and stuff. Obviously, I hate that part. But in terms of the dynamic, in terms of the bonding, in terms of just the unity within, at least within my bubble, not just my wife and kids, but also my family, it was actually, for a moment, it was very therapeutic in some ways. So I do miss it sometimes. I really do. I miss those drives to the beach and then whatnot. Makes you appreciate the little things. So anyway, that will do it for today's episode of the Earnestly Podcast, dated March 14th, 2023. Again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. Until then, we'll talk soon. Once this Aaron Rodgers thing becomes official, I'll drop a little update here on the feed, probably a little reaction podcast to that once we get the official word on that. So until then, we'll talk soon. And God bless you guys. Stay up and stay healthy, baby. Later. Thank you.